This podcast is sponsored by CDO Group, the industry leader in providing a full range of construction and project management services. CDO Group has managed thousands of projects in all 50 states. Their group of experts provides systems, processes, and procedures to make sure that your projects turn over on time and on budget every single time. With over 24 years of experience, CDO Group is the industry's leader in construction management and general contracting services. To find them, go to cdogroup.com. Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Hey everybody, welcome to the Future Development Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Amunategui, and today I have the one and only Marco Silva. Marco is the ambassador for AI for Microsoft. His background in AI is second to none. He's also got one of the coolest NGOs in the world. Let's welcome Marco Silva to the show. Marco, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on. Last time we saw each other, we were in Portugal. That was quite an eventful night together. You know, my wife got to meet Christina and, Sophia. The two of them just hit it off it was great. That restaurant we got to go to was amazing. So we'll talk a little bit about that in Portugal.
Oh, first of all, Anthony, so thank you so much for having me, and the memory of us four having a dinner here in Portugal was amazing, and I really enjoyed it. And meeting you and just talking here in Portugal about your experience, your projects, and my experience, just sharing that over a meal, it was so cool. I loved it.
What a great restaurant that was.
Yeah, it was. We had a full meal, full dinner meal. We almost closed out the restaurant, so it was so good. We were so having fun, just having a blast, sharing experience and everything, to the point that we almost closed the restaurant off. So it was so cool. In the end of a pandemic, also. So it's have that experience. If it were like 1 year ago here in Portugal, it wouldn't be probably possible. So it's so cool.
I think the next night, Portugal actually opened up completely that following night, right?
I don't think it was. It was the week after.
Okay.
We went through the final phase of phase 5, but it was. It's been very good, fortunately, after that until now, at least. Let's see how Christmas goes out, right?
Well, I think that's great to talk about that. But I think the audience really wants to get to know you, and let's kind of back up a little bit and get some of your background and how you got into AI and the amazing work that you're doing today. I think we'll get into all that, but let's go back a little bit and get to know Marco and your background.
Sure, Anthony. Thank you. So I enjoyed AI. I think from the very beginning. I studied engineering in the university here in Portugal, in Oporto. So I developed this passion for computers really early. I didn't know AI when I was young, but I really understood that computers were this magic box that could do things that humans had difficulty doing at a high speed. So they do the same things as human, but they do it really fast. And this concept got me into computer graphics, into things that are very abstract, but building them in code. And this got me to the university, and I majored in artificial intelligence, and I majored in computer graphics. To be honest, I thought I would be doing games for the rest of my life. I built a students group at the university called a student group for computer graphics. This was the second student group in Portugal focused on computer graphics. We started doing some games, started doing some simulations for medicine and stuff like that. When we were I was like on third year in the university. It was really early. We're trying to do things with AI and computer graphics at the same time. But then I went and started focusing on business. So I went full business. I started working for Microsoft. I built stuff like, I built the first Netflix-like application in Portugal, like 8 years, I think, 8 years before, so 6 years before Netflix came to Portugal. Netflix was starting in the US. to be somewhat known, it would still have, it was the time that Netflix still had this DVD discs system that you would mail in a DVD, and they were starting to think about moving into digital and full digital streaming. We were building a digital streaming platform, so it was a big inspiration at the time, but still very early on. But that was very much business, but always looking at AI. Microsoft was starting to move into AI at that time. We were talking about 2010, and I was basically one of the speakers and always trying to be an evangelist for AI. That got me to the point today that I'm the ambassador for AI for Microsoft here in Portugal. So I'm the AI ambassador, trying to build this knowledge, global knowledge of people and awareness of people to AI, to companies, communities, students. So I do a lot of evangelism in universities and stuff like that. So it's trying to build that awareness of AI to the point that today I teach AI. I got this so much into myself that I teach three disciplines in the university here in Lisbon. So I teach machine learning and artificial intelligence, advanced machine learning and artificial intelligence, and data science projects. So basically, this is a final project that the students need to do around data science and machine learning and AI. So it was a little bit like this. I always connected to technology, always trying to build this gap that exists between what you can do and really should be doing with AI. Talk a lot about ethics. I do that on my podcast. I still have a podcast also around AI. So I try to build this evangelism as much as I can to get AI to the point that everybody is aware of what it can do and its true potential, not the sci-fi things that many people still believe that this is, and builds fear even. I try to build a good, positive awareness of AI, and this is something that Microsoft is doing, and I try to help as much as I can.
Well, it's funny when you talk to students about AI and you're getting them started. Where do you start them off with? Because it's such a big conversation, such a big thought to get. For me, whenever I start someone off on AI, I always say, hey, look, just do me a favor. Please go read the book or listen to the audiobook, Life 3.0. For me, I love that book. Max Tegmark does such a great job of in his description of the formula and putting together the whole theory behind it. I love that, and I think it makes it easy for people to understand kind of how AI could play into their life from the stimulation that he does in the book. And for me, that seems like a great way to start people off. When you start a student off, or someone that's interested in AI, or someone just trying to digest what's AI, where do you start to break that down? How do you explain it to them?
Okay, so for students, the goal there is a little bit different, because my students want to work in this world. So I try to, from the beginning, try to get rid of some misconceptions that exist around what's AI and what's machine learning, what's possible, and what's the magic behind it. Because most of them will feel that most of the magic will leave their minds as they start to understand. And many of these algorithms aren't that much, they're predictions based on statistics and not true magic. Because there's this idea of general AI that's still far away. I personally believe not that far away. They're not talking like hundreds of years from now, but it's still decades away probably from existing as sci-fi movies show. So that's sometimes blurs your knowledge, creates this magic that, hey, I will solve every problem that I just put it into. Even if there's no data, he will find the data. No, it won't. So AI is very, still today is very a process of trial and error, very iterative, and not that pretty when you're working on it. So for my students, I try to ground them in what will they be doing and what's the true potential of that. So try to kill a little bit of the magic that exists, but build a new magic around this is possible. So look at this, and try to give them a full array of tools to solve problems that I would say to them then, so try to solve this yourself. You won't, because this needs technology. This is a born solution with technology. You need it. So you need to understand it. It's not a sci-fi movie anymore. These things weren't possible and now are, but there are still things that we need to work on. So that's how I try to do my students.
Well, when you say you still think it's decades off, to me, I keep looking at it going, look, there's a lot of silos of development, right? If you go look at it across the industry, there are every one of the groups I speak with, if it's the architectural platforms, if it's the construction data services, if it's the restaurant people that we work with, across all of the different platforms that we work on, they're in little silos. And to me, what it feels like is we're working out the different components, the data collection, the data matrix, the data sourcing, in these little individuals, almost like AI would do, right? How AI would take out a concept and break it down and work on each strategy a little bit differently at the same time. It feels like that's actually what's happening today across the world, that there are hundreds of thousands of silos of people that are developing databases, algorithms. They're learning all the components of it, and somewhere in there's going to be a computing power that's strong enough and fast enough to be able to start to pluck these together and understand them each individually, right? And that collective, my belief is that somewhere we're going to have this leap. Now, where that leap happens, who's the creator of the leap? How is that? Right now, I feel like we're generating some of that, but I don't see decades. I keep imagining that we're going to have this leap somewhere that'll be shorter than that. When you say decades, help me understand why you think decades out, as where other people are saying, hey, it's 5 years out.
Okay. In terms of general AI, I don't think because the thing is, we're very, very much proficient and very good at building specific AI. So specific tailored tasks can use AI. And we've been doing that for many areas and many industries. I think there's no industry today that doesn't leverage data mining. And I separate data mining from AI. That doesn't use data mining for the problems to do some predictions. And then some of them are started using true AI. But it's very specific tasks in medicine or in industry, in construction, in automation for cars. So you have specific tasks, but you cannot pick up a model that was built to and learned how to perceive the world in a car and then transport that to a home, for instance, and make your home automatic or use it in another context. So you need to build it from scratch. So we're building very much all of these systems based on the same logic, based on the same algorithms, but still building from scratch. In the human brain, there's this difference, and sometimes we think about AI in the same way, but AI hasn't built that part, because our human brain can be specific for a task, but it's the same brain that then will be used for the next task. And we reuse the learning that we have. Say, if I'm a very good doctor and I'm really proficient in learning all of a surgeon, for instance, I'm very proficient in doing heart surgery. If I start moving to the brain, I'm not going to start from scratch. And we as humans, we do this. We reset our careers many times and move from industry to industry, and we take that knowledge and we gain that. I remember the Renaissance phase of the world. We were like engineers, doctors, mathematicians, painters at the same time. So creative brain with logic brain all meshed up together, doing everything. That's a non-specific brain. We don't have a generic brain in terms of computing. We haven't built it. And what I think here needs to trigger is to build a generic algorithm that hasn't exist, that could then move from one task to another. Transfer learning exists in transfer from one task to another, but transfer learning is very limited, it's very narrow. It's optimization, for instance. So I can optimize schedules in a school, so I can optimize schedules in a airplane, for instance, or I can pick up this and play a game, like a board game or a PC game, and then transport that in terms of optimization and decision making to team optimization, or even have a different problem. But still, it's going to be that type of optimization. It's not completely different knowledge that would be built. And I think we still need to build that part, and it takes a little bit of time to build new algorithms. The algorithms that exist today, I studied them when back in early 2000s. It was the same algorithms. The neural networks didn't exist as much. They existed. The definition was very old, but new architectures are arising off the same principle. So that's innovation. That's not creation. Well, we need still to create something new to have that. But it's really tough. I say decades because based on the progress that we have now, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 20. Because like you said, and I loved your point, Anthony, there's this breakthrough moment, right? It's somewhere it's going to happen. And when that happens, yeah, for sure, it's going to be really fast. Like it was in the past in many points in our evolution as human species. There's that moment where cognition was revealed, neurosciences maybe find a way, and we can build from our brain to a computer, or silicon-based life emerges naturally. I don't know.
I think that's it. You can see this big leap in our evolution when we learned to do when communication really got robust, right? You can see in *Sapiens* when you read the book, or he does such a great job of describing the leap from non-communicative species to communicative. Now we have communication. We're able to tell stories. We're able to describe where things are at. As you look at Elon Musk creating an AI for cars, and he's got this, camera vision system that's able to, he's using more of the camera systems rather than the LiDAR. He believes that's going to be, it's harder to develop at first, but once he develops it, it's going to be a much more robust capacity to really identify objects, to see them, and, much smarter. But it's going to take a longer time to ramp up and develop. But over time, when it does, it'll be much truer than just regular LiDAR will be. And, now that you look at LiDAR and go, or camera vision, and be able to see that, if you adopt that to playing chess, or adopt that to finding vascular diseases, or change that over to looking at a construction method, to really looking at means and methods, isn't it just a matter of once the information's created, now we just need the data algorithm or the data collection to be inputted. Right now, we just need to get enough sources of data to show that this is what a 10-inch I-beam is compared to a 12-inch I-beam. We just need enough data references for AI to go, that's an I-beam. That's a 10-inch I-beam. There's a 12-inch I-beam. There's a heart. There's a blood vessel clog, and here's not a blood vessel clog. Right? Enough data to put that in there, and I feel like right now we're collecting all of that data. Right? All of those images, all of that data collection. Even though we don't have the camera system yet that can identify it, the data collection. I talk about that here all the time at CDO Group. We don't have the technology yet. But our job right now is to absorb and categorize as much data as we can, as fast as we can. Even though we don't know what the data is going to be used for today, start to achieve and develop, start to find the ways to collect the data and store it, because we're going to need that later on, right? There's going to come a time when we're going to be able to use this data to use it, even though today I can't see it, right? I can't see the tool that we're going to use that with. Right now, my job is just to know that somewhere I'm going to need to input this data to really make the AI more effective later on.
If you build the petition, I'll sign it for collecting all of the data and opening it to the world.
Yeah,
that's a petition I'll sign, because that's the thing that is mostly missing. Open data and open data projects is basically what's missing to create another big leap in terms of AI. I totally agree with you. And the difference here in my belief, I think, is we're still at the point where the base algorithm is still not as complex to be able to move from one task to another easily. Okay. Transferring from one problem to the other is still a limitation in terms. Even the most complex neural networks that identify objects are able to change from identifying those type of objects to other types of objects, they will use data as image sources. And if you want now to have a different type of image, or not identify objects, but do I want to detect a movement, you need a different algorithm. You're going to start from scratch, because that algorithm will not be able to shift to the different problem as much. But you can do something like, if you have enough labeled data today, hypothetically, that you could map all of the objects in the world and all the variations, then probably you would create a perceptor that would be able to identify everything as a human would, or even better, because you would know everything. And I haven't been to every country in the world, so there's many things that would probably ask someone, what's that? I never saw that. And that machine that has all the data will probably say to me, would be my partner in my mobile phone that would just take a picture and tell me that. So yes, I think that type of AI is possible. We're still missing the data, like you said. So like I said, if you have the petition, I'll sign it for sure, because that's what we need.
Well, here, no. Here, I think that's the game, right? Here's the game.
Yep.
I'm up for collecting all the data, but whoever collects the data, right? If we're going to make transparent, if we're going to make data collection transparent, we're going to collect it all. I need transparency on the people that are collecting the data. We cannot have, if we have people collecting data in some sort of secrecy, that's the number one way to create a dictatorship. If we start that way, right, if there's one person out there collecting data and knowing too much about me, and I don't know what they know about me, now I've set myself up for a perfect place to create a ruler over top of us that may or may not do what I want them to do. And, that scares me. But as we start to look at the data platforms, great. I don't mind you collecting data. I just want to know what you're doing. I want to know who the people are. As the more data you collect, the more we should know about you and know about what you're doing with it and what's going on with my data. My feeling is the open source data isn't the problem. It's the open source data collector that's the problem, right? How are you profiting from it? How are you going to use it to, what I don't want to do is I don't want to be hijacked, right? I don't want you to start to hijack me and, start to, create things about me that I don't even know you're doing to me. I don't want you to start to manipulate me and I don't know about it. If you're going to collect data about me and you're going to use that, I want to know what you're doing. I want say, and I think we want say, and I think that's where the AI world is trying to put the brakes on right now, going, hey, we're all for AI, but we just want to make sure we got to get some rules in here that say what we're doing with the AI, and the AI community is all wrestling right now to get an organizing body to do that. And you can see that across the world where, they're saying, I think the United States came out this week and said, or the World Organization came out and said, we're going to put a halt on AI development. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that one, right? We're going to put a halt on AI development. I think it's more source of, hey, how about we just all communicate what we're doing up front? And the more open source data we collect, the more open source information we need to know about the collector and what they're doing with it. And I think in theirs seems to me to be one of the opportunities as we develop AI.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's not much the regulations part that some regulation needs to happen. And you know the construction business very well. There's no engineer that would, you need to be an engineer, go through all the process to sign a project to be built, because there's all of these concerns. And if you think about the lives that then could be, because people will live in or work in that building, you think about all of that and say, okay, so we're saving people lives because we're creating this process to validate this engineer's work. That's good, because anyone could draw a paper and say, let's put a beam here, and it seems like it's okay. Then comes like rain or something like that. You go through a year and then the roof falls over 100 people that work on the building. That would be very bad. So you create all of these measures. AI doesn't have any of this, and software engineers today, like myself, we can basically do anything, right? There's no ethics committee. There's nothing to do this. So I don't think that we should put a break on it, but we need to be more vocal in terms of public discussion, because I don't believe in closed quarter discussions in a committee somewhere with the Senate or something like that will decide what's the best way. They don't understand AI. It's not there's no way for them to really create the laws and regulations. But the people that are working, the whole world working on AI, and they're very good at it. Companies are very good at it. Microsoft has an ethics board that we publicly make available all the decisions and process that we go through on our software development. I love this board because the guys really are thinking about what should be doing. The problem here is you don't know that you're doing wrong, and it's not. Yeah. I'm a developer. I'm not planning on being biased towards a race of people. Like, say, if I'm using computer vision, like it happened with Microsoft, we stopped using that for policing. So police cannot use our computer vision algorithms to do facial detection and identification because we're not sure if there's 100% bias free. So not use it. That's ethics, right?
No, and that's ultimately it, because as we develop this AI, we have to create the ethical part of it. I mean, when you get self-driving cars and the car is driving down the street and it has to make an ethical decision, oh, look, I see a kid running out to catch a ball. I have to swerve to miss that one, but I have to kill my owner. What's the ethical decision it has to make, right? Someone has to program that in. A group of programmers somewhere in the world has to program that logic into, hey, look, do I save the kid or do I save the owner?
Yeah.
Are you going to make that call? Is your team going to make that call? I mean, do you want to be the one sitting behind that thing going, well, let's see here. It depends on how old the kid looks. If he looks like he's older than the driver or younger, right? I mean, now all of a sudden you're forced to make this thought that I wasn't planning on doing before, right?
But now you just said the biggest thing about AI, because if we train anyone in the driver's seat that they all went to school? So is that part of the training for humans? No, we trust that the human will have the better judgment of doing the best decision, and probably we will judge people that run over the kid and say, oh, he couldn't swerve. People that die, oh, he saves the kid. But it's all good because there's no ill intent in human. If there wasn't an ill intent, it was a situation and you were presented with the situation and you choose A, you choose B, doesn't matter because it was an impossible choice for a human. But if it's a machine, you will do always the same choice because you're going to program it. Basically, there's billions of cars in the world. All of them will do the same. And this scares people.
That's right.
On the other way, it was an individual decision. Right. It was Marcus' decision. It was Anthony's decision. It doesn't matter. Now it's a massive decision. And complaints in terms of AI, that's the problem, because every time that you're biased or you do a mistake, that mistake is in code and will be done millions and millions and millions and millions of the time, every second probably. It depends on the breadth of the AI that's squirming around the world. So that's the thing. We really need to have these discussions, but you're getting to know humans. That's the thing that I love about AI. That discussion that you're just having will make humanity better, even if it never gets implemented, because we're thinking about what's life and how you value life and how you make this decision. What's ethics in terms of human? What would be the correct human behavior for this so that we can program it in the machine? And we can't converge in a solution. That's amazing.
I know it's a great, I mean, that's, just sitting down and be able to have that thought, looking at AI also, the difference is that you and I, we get up today. I forgot I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of what I had for dinner last night. Let's see. My wife made chicken soup. So I had chicken soup because I remember because I had chicken soup for lunch today, right? But what I had for dinner 3 nights ago or what how fast I drove, what my favorite options are, I don't remember them all the time. But the problem is that AI is collecting that data on me every decision I make. Everywhere I go, every click I make, every conversation I have, every phone call I make, every phone call I make and then drive somewhere, it's putting together, and its ability to hack me is going to outweigh myself, right? I mean, outweigh who I am. It'll know my friends, my preferences, it'll know me so much better than I can even remember myself. That's what the part when I start thinking about is going, that's a little scary.
Yeah, a bit. But
right?
I do believe that that's the biggest challenge here is be transparent. Here in Portugal, for instance, and it's not just AI. Our medical data is all digitalized. So, and anyone in a hospital can access that data as a physician or doctor who would need to access your data. If I'm in a doctor's office and he access any of my medical data, I get an SMS message. So my phone rings inside his office showing me that someone accessed, this is the person that accesses.
Wait. So
if I'm away...
Yeah, wait, hold on. Yeah. So does that mean that every time you go to a new doctor's office, you don't have to fill out that new paper form, that new patient form?
So only for private hospitals, you still need to do this. It's not fully global, but unfortunately, but probably they will be.
But I'd be up for having all the AI, have all my information. If I don't have to fill out another one, I can Facebook from the crapper. And every time I go to a doctor's office, I got to fill out that damn form that tells me, hey, when was the last time you had surgery? I'm like, I answer these questions 1,000 times in my life, and you mean that I mean Google knows more about me than this piece of paper does. You seriously need me to fill this piece of paper out? And then what are you going to do? You're going to take this thing, you're going to scan it into some computer, and then you're going to throw this away. And how many owls are quivering at night because of all the trees that we kill because of the damn these forms that we still have to fill out in the medical world. And you're like, really, you guys? You're in the medical world. We're counting on you guys to be advanced in technology. We want you guys to know and be learning more than we are and care about our health and the well-being, and yet all this archaic behavior that you're having, it doesn't give me much hope that I'm on the other side of this wall you're advanced, right? Over here on the front side I've got this archaic way of filling out. When I get to the other side, does someone over there know more about medical stuff than these Neanderthals?
I do believe that the way is digital, fully digital. I've been doing this for a while now with Microsoft, and it's for sure the way that you can create good for everybody at the same level. Because if you had these forms, there's going to be a lot of people waiting and a lot of people that won't have access to it because there's so many times, and you're not going to be able to have billions of hospitals to serve the community. You're going to always need to have as much as you can and try to make as much of those hospitals and those means to serve a larger and ever-growing community. So digital is the only way to do it. But that opens the door for what you were saying, that Big Brother is out there and watching us. And so I just want to be notified. I want to be able to know what, like you were saying, picking up on your words, Anthony, what are you doing with my data? So I just want to know. And I want to be able to say no, because that's my data. So if you're trying to do something that I'm ethically not okay with, then probably don't use my data to do it. Maybe there's millions of others that will say yes, so use those. Same thing as medically. If you want to be on a trial, a medical doctor will say, oh, you have a cancer, it's very aggressive, no, it's a very good candidate for my trial. And say, I don't want to be a guinea pig, so please don't choose me. It's all good, because there's going to be other people that will, maybe I'm not ready for it,
Well, until I go to order a pizza and I get that alert, right? I go to order a pizza and I get an alert that they're checking my medical records and they're going, yeah, I'm sorry, your cholesterol's too high. You can't have cheese today. And they don't let me have a pizza, right? All of a sudden I want to order a pizza and my medical records say, nope, sorry, you're too fat. You don't meet our specs, so you can't have pizza tonight. You're going to have the fish dinner tonight. And yeah, there's no, you get to have, fish and a salad, no pizza for you. I'll be okay until that happens, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's possible for you to have all of the benefits of AI and open data and still be safe. You just need to build the system this way. For instance, another thing that I'm working with is that I'm very happy is trying to get this new concept around federated learning. So federated learning is a way for your listeners that maybe don't know this term. It's basically when you get to train an AI model, but you don't get the data. So I want to train my model, but your hospital, for instance, Anthony, this is I think the best application this is for medical use. You have an hospital and your data is inside on premises because you don't want to, even if it's in the cloud, but it's in your cloud, it's closed. You don't want to give me access to your patient data, but you believe in my project because I'm I'm probably going to save a lot of lives with my model, but I don't have the data. So you have the data, you don't have the model. I have the model, but don't have the data. But you cannot give me that, and I don't want to it's not going to be your model. It's going to be for this whole world. So how are we going to do this? Federated learning solves this. So I can train my model on your data inside your premises, then come back to me only the output of the training model. So I never saw the data. I just want the model. And I'll distribute my model in these federated sites that federate with myself in terms of the model building standards. So I just give you my algorithm, then comes back to me with the results of that training. I know the accuracy. I know this model is good or not, and I'll do another iteration, give you back another tentative, and then come back. And at the end, I'll get that model, put it out there, and your data is still safe.
That to me is the euphoric way. I mean, look, if I can generate that and keep my data safe, the problem is that I've been, for thousands of years, governments have taken advantage, or religions have taken advantage of their people, and to be able to trust that federated model. Look, that is exactly what we want, right? We want a model that can go in there and learn without exploiting the individual, look for the greater good for the community. Our greater good's what we want to serve. If your data can help serve the greater good, absolutely. But as soon as that your data comes out and starts to exploit the individual, now everybody doesn't trust it. Now I'm in fear. Now I'm in a spot where the greater good sounded good until it exploited me. And now if I could have one, that federated model to me sounds beautiful, right? It sounds like a great place to be. So how do we protect that? How do we protect the integrity of the model?
And it's easy, and most of this comes with ethics around what we were discussing before. But and I loved your point, Anthony, because that's probably that fear exists. Yeah. Okay, that's a fact. People are afraid that their data and these models will be misused. Probably most of them with concerns with their own freedoms being basically reduced by governments or wherever that will exploit these data and these models to create a new wave of non-democratic government that will be able to see everything, and your liberties will be compromised. So that's the thing. That is a fear, and that probably is, in my opinion, my biggest fear is that will generate a new winter for AI. Will close down AI because people will start not sharing the data and not basically not believing that in the integrity and ethics of the people that are working, because AI is bad. And if that idea comes out, then it's going to be 20 years again or even more of non-progress for AI, like it happened in the past, and this is going to be bad. This is, for me, is one of its high expectations and the fear. One of them is at great risk to stop AI progression today. This is something that happens today. The ethics is the core, Anthony. Ethics is the core. So if we have open discussions around the ethics and what should and shouldn't be doing, and this is public, and if this is really well transparently given to the community all around, then people have nothing to be afraid because it's open, right?
No, here, winter is coming. And if we don't get on top of the ethics, right, then we know it. If we don't get on top of the ethics today, and all the folks that are out there developing AI want that, right? They want it today. Like you said, there's not a developer out there trying to make a bad machine. They're all trying to find ways of making the world a better place to be. And we're just trying to exploit the people who aren't, not those people that are trying to develop AI that will exploit us. So, I think all of the great developers have realized that, and I think they're all in agreement with us. I've not met anybody who hasn't found that exact reason. Look, we all want to find that. Now let's giddy up and work together to create an ethical process to put this together. Marco, I am so excited when I get to work here. But I know we're going to run out of time, but I want to talk a little bit about your NGO. You've got one of the best, out of all the people I've ever interviewed, all the people I've ever been on board, you have got one of the best NGOs in the world. So let's tell the audience a little bit about your NGO.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. So I've built an NGO with a bunch of friends that are, it's called Dice Cultural. So basically what we do is we try to help the hobby of board games to grow worldwide. So we have many projects from creating awareness around board games to helping translate board games here to Portuguese. Portugal is a very small country, as you almost went from north to south of Portugal really fast. So it's not a very big country. So getting translations to our native language is not that great. Language is always a barrier to entrance, and we have started building other aspects like care. For instance, Dice Care for helping the community, less privileged individuals that don't have access to games and don't have access to this type of cognitive development tools, because games are cognitive development tools, especially board games, in my opinion, because it's very tactical, you're physically around the table with other people. There's social aspects. It's not like video games where you're closed up in front of a TV, probably not even connecting with anyone else, because there's no human connection there. Even if there's voice chat, it's not as good and as fast as nonverbal communication around the table. And that's very strategic. You need to learn, you need to read to learn how to play the game. So there's many layers of cultural and cognitive development that games provide. So this is a little bit of what we do in Dice Cultural. I have one of the best teams that I know. It's been the best teams in the world. The guys that are volunteers and giving their time to help games grow and giving their times to help people also get to know more games. It's still a rising hobby. It's not as big as video games by far, but it's a fast-growing market, to be honest, and the fast-growing, especially in the pandemic, to be honest. Another thing that the pandemic, that it wasn't all bad. One of the good things is there's a lot of people that reached out and wanted to have family moments around the table that didn't involve a television. So board games got a larger audience to that as well. So that's good.
You know, I grew up in a board game culture, right? In my family, we had board games. We had board games as kids. We had stacks of board games in our bedrooms. And, you know, anytime you had friends over, you had, you know, Monopoly or whatever they were, Candy Cane or Candyland, whatever they were fun to play. They were interacting. And it taught a lot of stuff, you know, not just the physical interaction, right? The relatedness to each other, the behavioral aspects of it, how to be a good winner or loser. It took a lot out of us in the social environment that I think that, you know, having that still around is a gem. And I really honor you for keeping that art and those relationships around. You and Portugal are a magical place. I have to tell you, our trip to Portugal was one of my favorite trips in the world. Every part of it has history and just it's luscious from top to from Porto to the bottom. The whole country, Navarro with the beautiful beaches and every part of it, the castles, the art, the history, the people, the language, the food, all of it was just exciting and beautiful, just as you are. And I'm so grateful to have you on the show today. Please make sure you give Christina my love. And I look forward to us getting on this podcast again. Like every time we talk, we go down these paths that are fun. They make me giggle inside and make my brain really think a little bit. So I'm grateful for the time we get to spend together, brother.
Thank you so much for the kind words and for this time and for this amazing conversation. I had a blast. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation here in Portugal, this conversation and many others that I hope we have. Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.